Good afternoon, everyone. If someone could just put in the chat if they can hear me, and we will get started. Awesome. Thank you so much. Perfect. So today we're going to go over a COVID-19 update. I know that we're probably all a little apprehensive about this, but we're going to get through it together. That's what we do as a team. And we're pretty proud of all the things that we've accomplished in the last year and a half in coping with all of this. So as we go through this, if you have any questions, please go ahead and throw them into the chat or into the Q&A. I will do my best to keep up with them. And we'll go from there. Just a moment. All right. So first, as you know, we started whip around again. We did reduce the number of questions. We just want to know if you have symptoms. We had people showing up to work with symptoms and being sent home, or realizing that they probably shouldn't be there and calling me, and I'm like, yeah, you need to go home. So if you have any of the symptoms that are listed on the whip around app, please make sure that you don't come to work. That should be done prior to you leaving your home. And if you do, make sure that you contact me or one of your contact people, which would be Brian, Steve, possibly Kim, depending on how early it is, Jamie. I will be training other people to go through that process of determining whether somebody needs a PCR test or not. So please keep that in mind when you go forward. Be specific when you call out. Please don't just say, hey, I'm not feeling good anymore. That doesn't work for us. We need to know what is not feeling good. What are your symptoms? For example, I will not be in today because I have a headache, runny nose, and the chills. I'm sending you for a PCR test. Like, those are major symptoms. So please keep that in mind when you're calling out. You have to be specific. Assume that you're going to have to get a test if you're calling out with symptoms. It's what we have to do to protect the rest of the company. It is an OSHA rule that we provide a safe work environment for our employees. And by doing so, we have to ask people to get past, sorry, there are other things going on. My phone's blowing up. I apologize. We have to make sure that we're providing that work environment, that safe work environment, by having people tested and having them quarantined while they're waiting for their test results. The last thing we want is a massive breakout of COVID in the company. And make sure that if you are asked to go get a test, that you ask for the PCR test. The PCR is not the rapid test. It's a longer test, so it takes usually 24 to 48 hours to get results back. The labs have gotten much better about turnaround time on these tests. Convenient MD has their own internal lab, so it only takes usually 24 hours to get back. CVS, if you don't have insurance, does do free testing. Their turnaround is usually 48 to 72 hours. So I just had a please email whip around app link for those who have new phones. We absolutely do that. So if someone doesn't have the whip around app on their phone, you need to let us know. I do know that when Deb or Jamie sets up those phones, they are putting the whip around app on it. You have to go in and actually sign in. So if you do not have the whip around app on your phone, please let us know. You can email me, you can contact Jamie, you can contact Deb, or me or Jamie, because we have to send it through the actual whip around module in a web browser to get that out to you. So close contact is back to 6 feet. It's no longer 3 feet. So if you're within 6 feet of another person without masks, 15 minutes of cumulative time in a 24-hour period. So what does that mean? Well, it means that if you were with somebody for 5 minutes at a time, 3 times within 24 hours, then you have been in close contact with that person. It is in the 2 days prior to the start of their symptoms or a positive result if they are asymptomatic. So please keep that in mind. So if they can't access whip around, please have them contact me. That was Dustin. We usually send out the initial one, Dustin. If you're having problems getting in beyond that, then I will absolutely have you contact Dustin. There should be only 2 questions. The first time we did this on 3 days ago, there were 5. We were having some hiccups and Dustin went in and fixed it. I do know that there's 2 because I went in and did it today. So if you're still seeing 5, you shouldn't, because I deleted that 5 question one. Okay, perfect. So when to mask up, we are going back to a mask mandate. Some of the rules have changed a little bit, but it's pretty close to what we were doing before. So basically, if you're with somebody in an enclosed space, you put your mask on. Some examples are if you're in an office with more than one person, when walking in pathways or areas in the office with more than one person, if you're in a conference room where there is more than one person, in a vehicle where there is more than one person, if you are in a client home with more than one person, you must put on a mask. One of the things that we are asking is that you not use the gaiters that we gave you unless you have the filter in, or if you have a gaiter of your own, you have to fold it in half. It has to be a double layer for it to be effective. So with masks, we want to close the gap. One of the things that's really important about wearing a mask, if you have gaps here or gaps here, it's ineffective. So please make sure that you're choosing masks that have the pliable metal piece here and the nose piece so that you can clamp it down. If you are someone who has a smaller face and you have gaps along the sides, you can simply put a little knot in the mask right where the mask connects to the string, and that will close that gap up for you as illustrated in the picture on the right. So offices will be closed again to field employees, vendors, and clients. If you do need access to the offices, for instance, you're coming to get your paycheck, please call prior to arriving. All visitors must wear masks. Interviews will be held at the 302 conference room. We still want to continue doing interviews in person. We do find that they're much more effective in eliminating people who aren't going to fit the BLC culture. Orientations will be held in one-on-one conference room. Again, we just find that one-on-one orientations are much more effective than doing it via Zoom, and we're hoping to continue that. But again, as the numbers grow and there are more breakthrough infections, we could end up changing that as well. Clean it up. Sanitation never stop. We never stop that policy. It is a part of our permanent policies now. So it's part of your everyday tasks. You get paid at the end of the day to make sure you're wiping everything down, your vehicles, your equipment, your tools. Spend some extra time at the end of each day sanitizing those things. Make sure you're doing your tools, your desk, keyboards, any public areas that you've been around if you're in the office. If you run out of sanitation spray, here are the people that you should contact. If you work in the Guilford yard, you'd want to contact Joe. If you work out of the Belmont yard, you're going to contact Derek. If you work out of the Wolfboro yard, you'll be contacting Andrew, or Jan, I believe actually is the one that will be for the Wolfboro. For 302 office, you'll contact Jeff, and for 101, you will contact Jamie. That's if you need more sanitization products or spray. Back to washing our hands. I really hope no one stopped washing their hands, but in the field, please use the buckets that we provided earlier this year. If you need soap, let me know. Wash your hands and sanitize after using the bathroom. This is something that we learned as children. We should never stop doing that. After touching anything that is in the public area or used by other people. After eating, particularly if you happen to be a finger licker rather than a napkin user. After coughing or sneezing into your hands, you should not be doing that. The best way to cough or sneeze is into the crook of your arm right here, or just covering your face with your shirt and coughing down or sneezing down into your shirt. And also do that after removing your mask, even though you should be removing your mask from the earpieces up through here and taking it off. Sometimes we do end up touching the front, and that's where virus and other germs can congregate. So when you touch your mask, please make sure that you sanitize your hands afterwards. We now have a ban on, or a suspension rather, on company related travel at this time. Starting September 2nd. So after September 2nd, we will not be doing any company type traveling for conferences, seminars, anything of that nature until further notice. Just as a reminder, the federal government so far is still ending the COVID pay at the end of September. I have not heard anything through any of the sites that I'm on, both state, HR, federal, that implicates that they're going to actually extend that. So we don't know what's going to happen after September 31st. A lot of times the government gets the week before and they're like, oh yeah, forgot that was going to run out. Here you go, an extension. But there's a chance that they may not extend that. So if the company no longer receives reimbursement for paying people to be in quarantine, or if they're positive or whatever the case may be, we will not continue to pay for testing or for quarantine. Any additional questions other than the ones that I have received? I did get something through my phone. Okay. A couple of people weren't able to get in because of locations, which is fine. We'll send them the recording. I don't see any questions coming up, so I'm going to just assume that everyone understands. What about if an employee is traveling? That is a great question. We have not had the chance to discuss that yet. Right now, employees can travel freely. Again, as cases begin to rise in certain areas of the country or even in our own area, that may change. It doesn't mean that you can't travel because that's your personal right to, but it may mean that you will need to quarantine once you return for 10 days. And if it's after September 31st, it will be an unpaid quarantine. Question came up, are vaccinations still free for those that still need it? Yes, they are. The government is still offering free vaccinations. Jan, so no COVID test on my Whipper on. You may have to update the app or reset it. That's a question for Dustin. That's the stuff that he's really good at. If it's not actually in your inspection list, he can answer that better than I can. I can just get you the link to get it set up on your phone. So why are we using masks that have to be disposed of after one use? Honestly, we don't know how often people actually wash their own masks. So I know people who have cloth masks and never wash them, and that's really ineffective. So it makes more sense to use the disposable ones. So what's the science source you're basing these stricter mandates on? It's a company policy. We're choosing to do it. For those of you who don't know, there was a massive outbreak of COVID at Stevens Landscape, and there's been some really tough repercussions of that. So as a company, we have a right to protect our employees in any way we see fit. And these are the ways that we see fit to protect our employees. Any other questions? Okay. If you do have any other questions, as always, you're more than welcome to reach out to me, or you can reach out to anybody on our executive team. That includes Hayden, Andrew, Mark, Jeff, and Ruth. We are the ones that sit and come up with policies and what's next for the company. So if you're not comfortable talking to me, I can completely understand that. So if you're more comfortable talking to one of them, you're more than welcome to do that. Other than that, I hope you all have a fantastic weekend, and we will see you on Monday.